And welcome back to the Touchline Talk Show. Thank you, William, for the comment. I just went and looked at Fabrizio Romano's tweet. Unsurprisingly, apparently, Richarlison made it very clear after the game he is displeased with his current role at Spurs as the $60 million signing or whatever it was that doesn't get to start. So there's that as well. Just going and further verifying everything that I just said, that it's time for Spurs to hit the reset button and figure out what the next era is going to look like, because you need a brand new start. Okay, our other games from Tuesday: Chelsea beat Borussia Dortmund 2-0 to win 2-1 on aggregate. They probably should have finished this thing off in the first leg. They were fantastic, except for they couldn't put the ball in the net because it was bad Chelsea. And Karim Adeyemi scores, so Dortmund entered with this 1-0 lead. Coming back to Stamford Bridge, Adeyemi is injured, so he can't play in this game. Yes, that was a factor, especially as you knew that Chelsea were going to have to push for goals entering this game down on aggregate. Adeyemi's pace and ability to stretch the field would have been very helpful for Dortmund. That's not the reason Dortmund lost this game, though. Chelsea dominated again. There is no doubt who deserved to go through over the two legs. The right team advanced. And, it goes from bad to worse for Dortmund. Julian Brandt gets forced off with an injury 5 minutes in. On comes Gio Reyna. Although it does look for a little while like Chelsea are going to do Chelsea things again. They waste some opportunities. Havertz hits the post. Then he misses the penalty, but he scores the retake. I'm not going to get into that whole debate. They deserved this win. They deserved to win by multiple goals. They deserved to advance. Dortmund had a couple chances late, though, because Chelsea still didn't finish this off. But ultimately, they do survive. They advance. A massive stretch here for Graham Potter. All of a sudden, the ball went in the net once, and now it's gone in 3 times in 2 games. And they're into the Champions League quarterfinals and feeling much better about themselves. It's amazing what execution will do, because I will keep going back to this. I don't know what Graham Potter is supposed to do other than put his team in a position to succeed and set up a situation in which his team creates chances. And there were times where that wasn't happening, but recently they have had no issue with that whatsoever. When he's come under more criticism, I would almost argue he's been doing an even better job. They just aren't finishing because they have a team built with a bunch of players who aren't finishers. But they get the goal over the weekend. They get the 2 goals here. They played well again, just like they played well in the first leg. The difference was they took their chances. And so they become a very interesting entrant into the quarterfinals here, because they could beat anybody. On the right day, they are incredibly dangerous. And obviously, they just made Dortmund look rather silly, and Dortmund hadn't had a result other than a win in all of 2023 before this game. That's what Chelsea can do. Chelsea also consistently are dropping points in the Premier League against mid-table, lower-table teams. So it's a very strange thing where you have to be scared of their... No team has a bigger gap. This is the way I'll put it. No team has a bigger gap between their ceiling and their floor than Chelsea. Could Chelsea win this? Sure. Could Chelsea look really bad in the quarterfinals and get, an unfortunate draw and lose 4-0 on aggregate? Sure. None of it would surprise you. But I am happy for Graham Potter that he's gotten this thing turned around, at least temporarily, because you threw all these players at him. He's doing a good job with them. They're not delivering on their end. And yet we still continue to point to the manager with that, because the manager, the coach, is the person that you can change. You can't change all the money you just spent on all these guys. And that will always be just one of the issues I have. But They get the win. And on the Dortmund side of this, they simply weren't good enough. That's the first thing. But second, if I'm a Dortmund fan, if I'm Edin Terzic, I'm not that disappointed with this. Odds are you weren't winning. Could they have? Sure. They gave Manchester City some trouble. Again, on their day, they can play with anybody. But if you ask me, would I rather be completely focused on this Bundesliga title race or, squeaking through past Chelsea to get to the quarterfinals when it doesn't look like there's going to be any give-me's in the quarters, right? If you were to say, okay, you could possibly draw Club Brugge and get yourself into the semis pretty easily, then that's a little bit of a different conversation. But that's not the case. I'll take the extra rest, the laser focus, knowing you still have to go to Bayern, and knowing that you are delivering week to week here. They just got past Leipzig. That might be the second toughest game they had left. And they won. Wasn't pretty. They were great in the first half, not very good in the second. But they got it done. And so it's the opposite of trying to salvage your season through European competition or a cup competition. If it keeps going, great. But you got bigger things to worry about. They can absolutely go win this Bundesliga. They're going to have to get a point at Bayern to do it, I think. But that's not out of the question. So now you get all of your focus there. I just don't think it's the biggest thing in the world. You would have loved to have Adeyemi. Maybe that changes things a little bit. I'm a huge fan of his. But and the other part too is they're a little bit banged up right now. Brandt left. He was the guy that was scoring every single Bundesliga game for him. Adeyemi's been spectacular as well when he's been healthy. If you can just try and mitigate some of those things by not having those extra games, by getting that extra recovery time, get those guys healthy for these massive games coming up the rest of the season in the Bundesliga. A disappointing exit in the round of 16 is a more than fair price to play. They'll be back next season. They've got a really good core. That defense is much better. It's just not the end of the world for Dortmund. Chelsea needed this. Dortmund, bigger things to worry about. And then finally, Benfica, take care of business. 5-1 on the night, 7-1 on aggregate. Club Brugge have just had one of the most bizarre seasons. If you go back and look at what's been happening domestically and the teams that they lose to and the teams they beat in the Champions League, and very strange. They are no match for Benfica. Benfica continue to justify my confidence in them. I mean, before they even started scoring goals, they nearly had a couple. The one notable thing here, Nicolas Otamendi is going to be suspended for the first leg of the quarters. That is the one downside to this game. He picks up the yellow, so he's going to be suspended. But if I'm Benfica at this point, and I know I just said that, if you're Dortmund, there's no gimmies in the quarterfinals. But if I'm Benfica, and I'm looking at some of the teams that have already advanced, Chelsea don't scare me. I know Chelsea can be really good. Chelsea don't scare me. AC Milan don't scare me. Okay, Bayern scare me. I don't want Bayern. My point just simply being, and maybe Porto gets through, maybe Leipzig gets through. There are absolutely matchups, multiple, that Benfica can get in the quarterfinals that I feel good about, if not would view Benfica as the favorite. And then you're in the semis. And who knows what happens. And then, if it goes your way, you're in the final. There is a pathway here. This team is good enough. Do I think they're going to do it? No. But I just want to make sure this conversation is about Benfica as a contender, not Benfica as a Cinderella. Because that is just flat out disrespectful to what they've done this season. I've talked about this before, but I'll briefly say it again. It's not just that they're taking care of business domestically. It's that they are checking the box, just like Napoli are doing, at every point along the road, both domestically and in Europe. You can say, okay, they haven't played that, couple good teams in Portugal, but they haven't played that many great domestic games. What happens when they come up against better competition? Drew PSG twice. Didn't look out of place at all. Again, topped that Champions League group. Now, got a favorable draw in the round of 16, but what'd they do with it? Thumped Club Brugge. And Scott Parker is now out at Club Brugge. Should mention that as well. Difficult stretch here for him, going back to the beginning of this season. Now fired again. I don't really have too much to say on that. I just wanted to kind of recognize it. I don't know what it had to be an optics thing of getting beat this badly, because the idea that his team went out to Benfica that's not on him. That's on his team. Isn't anywhere nearly as good as Benfica. Now, the way it happened, not great. So I get that when it comes to the decision that was made by Club Brugge. But again, right, this isn't kind of finding a way, getting over the line. They have been dominant and done just about everything you could possibly want them to against every level of competition, with an exception here or there because things happen sometimes. It's not like they haven't translated it to the Champions League. It's not like they've only been able to beat the other sort of quote-unquote smaller teams in the Champions League. They have shown up every step of the way, which is why I'm so confident in their ability to compete with whoever they draw in the quarters. Now, do I like their chances against, Manchester City, Bayern? No. I would even feel okay about their chances against Real Madrid. Wouldn't love them, but I'd be okay with it. This team is that good. I will keep going to bat for them. They showed it again in this game.